Come on, 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 come on. Please, 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 won't you, like I please you.
Before you start, no, audience models aren't the most fascinating part of the great subject that is sociology, but you've got to learn them, and I'd sooner claw my own eyes out than do any public speaking, so here's a nice pre-recorded video. Make sure you've got note-taking things, because I'm nervous recording this, and while I'm rattling through it like a cheetah riding a bullet train, you're going to need to pay attention. You should probably have used the preceding paragraph to prepare your things, but if you haven't got the hint by now, here's 2 seconds of an amusing cat to buy you some time. All ready? Good. The Uses and Gratifications theory states that audiences aren't passive and don't mindlessly accept whatever they see, which might seem odd if you've ever seen a small child yapping away after a Christmas advert or a Jeremy Kyle viewer baying for blood, but actually makes quite a lot of sense. After all, there's a reason not many academics watch The X Factor, and it's not just that it's strangely menacing, it just doesn't appeal to them. Audiences are not forced to view anything, and can in fact turn their media devices to a setting called off if nothing appeals to them, a scenario which might be familiar to those who remember the time before the stupid virus of the mid-2000s made everyone into dribbling screen slaves. As a functionalist viewpoint, the Uses and Gratifications model believes that the amount of media content available simply means nobody is forced to miss out just because they like something strange or unpopular, like professional chess or the Liberal Democrats. The delightfully named McQuail argued in 1972 that there are 4 types of gratification available from the media. First up is diversion, where audiences try and distract from the grey, bland monotony of the day-to-day by immersing themselves in colourful fantasy lands, which will sound familiar if you've ever met a World of Warcraft player, which of course you won't because they're all inside playing Mists of Pandaria right now, nerdy joke. The second one is personal relationships. This is helpfully split into 2 different ways this could apply. Namely, consuming media makes you feel like a part of a community, much like the World of Warcraft players I mentioned earlier, or improving personal relationships with others by discussing media, such as friends round a water cooler discussing which of the 50 indistinguishable musical things they'll be voting for in the latest edition of Simon Cowell's beloved Cash Cow. Personal identity is a third one, helping to confirm your identity and personal tastes. This essentially means people watch things that society deems appropriate for them. For instance, a politics teacher would be assumed to watch Question Time and Newsnight, and a sociology graduate would be assumed to watch Prime Minister's Questions mainly because they have nowhere else to be at midday on a Wednesday. Finally, for McQuail, there's surveillance. Despite the name, this doesn't refer to any Big Brother-style show centred around voyeurism, and instead to a desire to know what's going on in the world, which one would imagine would be filled by watching the news that's required to be broadcast on all terrestrial channels, although from the look of Channel 5 you could be forgiven for thinking this is entirely optional. Moving on, there are a pair of sociologists named Livingston and Boville who found that people, particularly the young, use the media for reasons such as relieving boredom as well as for learning. There's nothing terribly amusing about that though, so I'll get to the next one. LOL. Lowell suggested in 1990 that people use media for a range of reasons, which won't come as a surprise to you since the previous sociologists have all done something similar, but in this case Lowell suggested 5 reasons, which are as follows. Environmental. Using media for background noise and entertainment, though why anyone would want to bake cakes or do DIY to the strains of Jeremy Kyle's rage-filled mob is beyond me. Then there's communication, which essentially means you use television programs and the like to try and incite some form of conversation in the vague hope that it will restore the flagging friendship between you and an acquaintance because no one else will talk to you, or maybe that's just me. Third is affiliation or avoidance, which takes both the previous points to their logical extremes and means that people use media to bond with, or more truthfully, avoid talking to people with whom they don't want to wear out their goodwill. Social learning takes the number 4 spot and means that media helps with decision-making, problem-solving and education. Perhaps the decisions are too often what channel to watch, and the problem is whether to stay with it or switch, but the idea that education is available is nice, and not just from poorly made videos for a sociology class. Finally, there's the idea of competence and dominance. Essentially, in an argument, people can use what they see in the media to beat someone within an argument, though not literally, of course, because they might break something. But is it a good theory? Well, we certainly watch TV for a lot of reasons, and the same goes for the internet and radio, and some of us do indeed form our identities around what we watch. However, media wouldn't exist as it does without one magical word: advertising. Media can create needs in audiences, as well as audiences fulfilling needs they already have, and that creates space for all sorts of commercial interests to come and fill the void. What's more, we are not all special snowflakes, no 2 of whom are alike. We are all, to some degree, products of our environment, and differences between people are often based on social groups as well as individual taste. It also ignores dysfunctional media consumption, such as if the World of Warcraft player I mentioned earlier decided that because of the game he was going to go and practice his sword skills on those who wronged him in real life. There's not yet a causal link between video games and violence, but while it's a possibility, we do need to be careful. So it's a decent theory, but a flawed one. Unfortunately, though, the same could be said for almost all of these theories, so the hunt for the perfect audience model continues. Thanks for watching.
You can have whatever you like. I said you can have whatever you like. Yeah.